Today's presentation is essentially on understanding social a bit more. Now, often brands have all this stuff come down from the top, and then it's just kind of given to everyone, whereas there's something in this presentation that I think will illuminate the importance of the role of anyone in stores for the future of social content. So you'll find in the next few years, you'll probably get a bit more active on the social media side, so it'll be interesting to explore. But there's a few bits we're going there. I'm going to go a kind of basic look into each platform, just to give you guys some more context and things you may not have known about them and how they change now, because quite frankly, they've changed so much every 5 seconds that it's almost impossible to keep up with. And this is specifically from the point of view of free stuff. So this is all organic, everything you can post normally from a Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, it's all in there. But yeah, a little bit of background on us, and anyone that gets that reference, by the way, gold star, see me at the end, grab samurai sword, either of those. But we are essentially the Authenticity Agency. So I set this up about a year and 3 months ago. We're based over in the Barclays Eagle Labs, just across the road. And it was really to kind of answer a fundamental question after being in years spent in marketing agencies and client side as well for the likes of B&Q, HSBC, Samsung, EE, you name it, I've been there. But every agency I went to at the end of their usual retainer was organic social, packed in at the end, not as important as it should be. When now in a post-pandemic world / ongoing pandemic world, it is completely the opposite. I'd say it's now your most important channel to grow brands, to grow connections with people, because that's the thing that's missing, because we're often seen as overarching corporates. So the question is, how many businesses do we all follow for fun? It's not often something we think about, but if you ever look at your feed, I guarantee there aren't many businesses in there that aren't for business uses, and it doesn't have to be like that. So that's what we're trying to essentially change and actually prioritise everything to do with social media for your brand. So just covering, this is what partly what I've worked on, what the team's worked on just in career. Airbus, Samsung, Provident Finance, that was a fun one. Hastings Direct, all of those. But there's a lot of finance stuff, and now with our current client set, we're looking at multiple different places, but the main one is working with Barclays Eagle Labs, and it's specifically to do one thing. They've got 28 centres around the UK, and it's actually to humanise them. They're already established brands, like many of you in here, and quite frankly, they don't need large lead generation, they don't need advanced ad spend to get them into somewhere. It's how do we make them feel more human? How do we encourage people that have actually made their own businesses over the pandemic to choose Eagle Labs? And it's actually providing as much value as humanly possible up front, because that's not something we tend to see. Everything's kind of withheld behind this barrier, or it's on a blog or something like that, whereas we take it from the complete opposite angle, give everything away for free. And there's a reason for it, and it's the way that things have developed. So there's the team, look at that, everyone here, all lovely. Mostly female workforce, would you look at that? We do have some other guys than me. We have a production executive I haven't put in here, so there you are. But let's take a look at certain bits, and this is why I wanted to give this talk. The rise of the in-house influencer. So how many of you guys in here actually have direct control over any of your social media or get to contribute to the social media channels? One? Anyone else get any control over anything? Have you ever been asked to provide content to brands in any way, shape or form, or has anyone ever come down to do stuff? Interesting. So in the next few years, you'll find that changing massively because of the way TikTok and Reels have changed the way we look at social media. So it's been a bit of a cultural shift over the pandemic. Some of you may notice we're all working from home, for those who don't actually get to go into stores, and people are sick of the corporate approach. And it's the authenticity that TikTok has pushed over the last year that has changed the way we view everything. Everyone's running away from Facebook and Instagram to get away from this picture-perfect you have to be for your family and friends. And over on TikTok, you can just have a laugh in your PJs, and it tends to work. But it's evolved so much over the last few years that you'll find that your brands will need in-store content massively. And it's just surpassed 1 billion users, TikTok, so it can't be ignored anymore. All of your customers are on it, and it doesn't take ad spend to succeed. And everyone in store will need to play a part into contributing to future content. And that's something that will probably be on your spectrum in the next few years if brand departments actually get their act together. But there's one thing they all really need to consider, is when you make any piece of content, it's got to educate, inspire, or entertain. Because quite frankly, why would anyone else waste their time looking at it, reading it, clicking it? Because otherwise it doesn't do anything. It's not providing you any value. And that's what a lot of brands miss. On their organic channels, the free ones, this is where you do nothing but build a relationship with your audience. Cut the sell. And it's very counterintuitive for brands, don't get me wrong. But over time, you'll find that they all gravitate to this model of building relationships on organic social media, and then everywhere else you can sell. You've got your emails, your websites, your ads, your out-of-home spend, your radio, podcasts, you name it. You can sell anywhere else, but not your Instagram, not your Facebook, not your TikTok. That's where you make and extend that hand to people that need it. So I'm finding that quite fascinating. And when brands start to realize that, those are the brands that really, really kill it. And there'll be a few brands that come to mind when you think about that, but that can't happen properly unless you fully understand the social media platforms you're using, because they're all so different, they're all so nuanced. And if we don't actually observe them properly and know the features, then, well, we're dead in the water, really. So let's start with my not-so-favourite, Facebook. So who in the room actually has Facebook? Well, raise those hands. Basically everyone. How many people actually use it on a daily basis? About half that number. So you can see that people are shifting away from Facebook. I mean, the fastest growing demographic is the older, so 55 to 64. I won't bore you with all the statistics because Facebook basically has everyone, so you might as well just count the entire world on that. But they're heavily moving into video content, and that's something that a lot of brands haven't actually considered just yet. Vertical video, and they're trying to take on two people. They're trying to take on Twitch, and they're trying to take on YouTube. So Facebook Watch is a whole separate video section that you can actually do unique content series within. So this is for things like the podcast, like the So Show, do really, really well uniquely on Facebook Watch, but then also live content, actually live stream that podcast, would then push you through the Facebook algorithm a bit more. And this is all for free, mind you, this is what we're focusing on it. So when we're looking at Facebook and how to use it better, if you're ever asked to provide content or do stuff in store, knowing that those are the pieces of content that will perform best for you is always the way to go. And if anyone has a startup in here or a side business, growing on Facebook is probably the hardest place to grow if you're starting from scratch. They give you no organic reach, and they want you to spend all the ad spend they want you to spend. Thanks, Zuckerberg. So it's all part and parcel of that. So if you are trying to grow organically, Facebook groups is another one. So if you sell something that's a little bit more nuanced, something that needs a little bit more training or walking towards or conversion cycle, then you're going to need to engage locally in groups and figure out how you can contribute to those communities and not just sell to them. So very interesting dynamic, and Facebook is a controversial opinion for a lot of people. It definitely is for me. I mean, how many times has it been out recently along with this guy? But we'll see. So, hands up, who uses Instagram? Yeah, almost everyone. How many people use it on a regular basis? That number's much higher. So, as I like to put in there, Instagram has become the new Facebook. It's now kind of like the gold standard of where people tend to go to, and I think everyone's kind of realised that. It has a slight shift further to female than male, but quite frankly, I don't think it matters because basically everyone's on it. And there's been a recent phenomenon on there, and Instagram have had a lot of work to do along with Facebook. Since TikTok's come along, it's completely changed the way people look at social media. Because you didn't really hear people going viral on Instagram or Facebook, but you hear people going viral on TikTok and YouTube. And it's because they actually gave a platform to creators to make it, one, their full-time job, and two, actually give them views when they don't actually have that many followers. Instagram have never done that, but now they have with Instagram Reels. So Instagram Reels is somewhat of a knockoff of TikTok's features, but it is giving you many, many, many more views than you ever got organically before. So when you're making stuff for brands, figure out how you can translate what would usually be your content into Reels. So for instance, this would be looking through the secret doors at West Key. Can you figure out which one's which? Or best ways to get deals at West Key that you haven't considered before, or top 10 retailers with the best sales right now. And this is how we would then translate this content and kind of go through West Key or other retailers. So you'll find that you end up actually figuring out, oh, actually, I can translate this into this. I can make this more valuable. And this is the way we need to think about everything. If we can make it valuable, if we can make it engaging, keyword, that's what's going to make us win online. And to be honest, that stuff can only be captured in store because it heavily relies on people and it heavily relies on voiceover. So you actually need to be there, you need to voice over, you need to give it personality and human connection because that's what people are crying out for these days. IGTV also exists and Instagram video. Instagram's recently changed as well. They've combined all video that isn't Reels into one tab. So that's something you'll see recently on that change. And it's interesting. It might actually help boost all of your video views. So you might see some increases organically, but we shall see. We shall see what happens. It's literally just been instated today or yesterday. So it's an interesting feature. But for now, we need to treat Instagram much more of a multimedia machine more than we ever treat it as, here's a pretty picture, let's upload it. Because that used to work in 2018, but unfortunately not anymore. And it's a right pain in the arse. Twitter. Twitter's the newsroom. If anything's happening, it's happening first on Twitter. And we kind of all know that. So who's got Twitter in here? Yeah. How many people actively use it? smaller number. So we all kind of have it. It's similar to, it could start at a similar time to Facebook. It's kind of one that's always been in our phones, if you will, but active users of it will have a whole community, just be on like the right side of Twitter to get any value out of it. But if there's one thing I've noticed about it, is it moves very fast. Average lifespan of a tweet is 18 minutes. So if your brands are kind of just scheduling stuff in, one post a day, not kind of commenting on anything topical, not being part of any conversations, not engaging with the community, may fall on deaf ears, and it's very tough to grow a Twitter page. But you have to be part of Twitter to grow on Twitter. It's kind of unavoidable. And all of these platforms want all the time in the world from you. It's just the way it is. But yeah, it can be very interesting. So your best friends on Twitter to grow are relevancy, content, consumption, and volume, and timing. So how can you really jump on all of those things to get better views, really? So another thing to consider as well, it's awfully different. You can't just upload one picture. Let's say if you've got 1080 by 1080 square on Instagram, upload that on Twitter and it's going to be cut off and it's not going to feel native. It doesn't do it on mobile, but it does on desktop, so there's just a nuance for you if you're interested. And videos can only go up to 2 minutes and 20 seconds, but you can upload up to 10 minutes if you did it via Twitter ads and then didn't put any ad spend behind it, which is a weird hack you have to do, which I'm not doing. So there it is. It's time for short, sharp bursts of content, and especially if you have a platform like a podcast or you comment on things in store. If you have TikToks and Reels, upload them quickly and kind of stay on top of current affairs and conversation. And that's the kind of best way to tackle Twitter. But Twitter's far more of a personal brand tool than is anything else. So if you guys want to raise your own profiles, Twitter's the place to do it. And you have some stats on who uses it down there, but quite frankly, that's all a bit too much numbers for me. LinkedIn. So who's a religious LinkedIn user in here? Yeah. Use it most of the time? Yes. LinkedIn's changed quite a bit, actually. I find it quite fascinating that it's almost become Facebook in the way it works. It's a bit of a strange beast. You'll find the stuff that LinkedIn is one of the only things you can get away with having open at work. So you'll find most of the time you get away with it. So have your video subtitles so people can watch it without the sound on. But it's changed a lot. And it's one of those things where personal content, inspiring content, and funny content is actually performing really well. So how can you translate the value, the knowledge that you have into LinkedIn in a way that might come across as sketch comedy or might come across as anything else? You have to stand out on LinkedIn to make any noise because it will reward you. LinkedIn is probably second best on giving you organic reach without you having many followers. So you don't have to do too much legwork to get there, apart from if you're on like Instagram or Twitter or something like that. So keep that in mind. Native video always wins. And when I say native, I mean just upload the whole thing to LinkedIn. You can upload up to 10 minutes. So that's quite an interesting feature. Actually, I think more up to 15 because I uploaded a 12-minute video today on TikTok, funnily enough. Plug. So there it is. Use LinkedIn the way you want to use it. Leverage it for your personal brand. Show off what you know. Entertain, inspire, educate. And you'll be absolutely fine. LinkedIn's definitely changed, but I think much more for the better. So just be authentic. Best way to do it. The platform of the hour, TikTok. I'm going through these quite fast because there's quite a few of them. It's the king of organic reach. Now, who has TikTok in here? This is going to be the one I've been wanting to know all day. Who's addicted to it? Yeah. It's unreal, and it's because they've redeveloped an amazing algorithm and full screen video experiences, which is what brands should be really focusing on. Human connection is a big part of TikTok. You gravitate towards certain people, you know them for certain things, and adapting trends quite quickly is a human and personal thing. So keeping that in mind, head office can't do that. That job is going to end up falling to someone in store or brand representatives from outside of store. So it's one of the things that with our clients, one of the things I've had to go is go, right, we need someone we can partner up with a long-term content that can actually have our product and make different trends with it. For, let's say, because one of our clients works in the States, a brand called Printed Memories. They make memory books and stuff where you can essentially plug in with Facebook and Instagram and make a book. So it's quite an interesting business, but they've got a lot of competition. So they need to leverage TikTok heavily because their competition isn't. But they're not American, nor are they a lady. So it's a bit like they're a bit stuck unless they have a brand representative over in the States. So when it came to their marketing budget, I said, right, we need to put this into influencers, brand ambassadors, and then the rest on organic and then paid stuff. So you'll find that in a few years, you'll get people going, can you guys film some stuff in the store and then put it out there? And then they'll just be asking slowly. But if it's one of those things where you guys want to really take hold, and really kind of show pride in whatever store it is, especially if you have more control and leeway and direct contacts, TikTok is the place you can shine and actually completely take the reins and really kind of ruffle some feathers down wherever you need to. So It's a very interesting platform. We're all addicted to it. And if anyone doesn't have it, download it. After the first hour, it'll completely form who you are, and you'll completely get it. Because from the outside perspective, you don't get it until you're in it. And then you realise why it's taken over the world. So do try that, homework for afterwards. But the most important factors in actually making a TikTok work is that 3-second hook at the start. That's what gets people watching the entire thing. It's either 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, or 3 minutes. So remember that. So it's watch time, it's captions and hashtags and the relevancy to the subject area. There's general engagement, likes, comments, shares, all that jazz. And then saves and shares are also your best friend. So get people watching, loop that content, and give them hooks to make sure they stay to the end, because that is the most important thing. And you'll find that TikTok will reward you heavily for being part of the community. Definitely a secret weapon there. Pinterest, beautiful click-throughs. Pinterest is not a social media platform, it's a search platform. Some of you will probably know that from how you use it. It's definitely more about the keywords you put in, inspiration for fall, inspiration for Halloween costumes, stuff like that. These are the current search terms that are going around all the time. Pumpkin head photo shoots, it's all going off. And every year these relevancies come in, they go out, so you really have to ride the waves of search. So when it comes down to if you guys are making Pinterest content, all about aesthetics, all about value, and all about actually making sure it's search ready. So it's far more of a search engine optimization exercise than it is a social media one. So very interesting. So this is the place where aesthetic shots and pretty pictures still work, but make sure they're vertical though. There's a new feature that we might want to keep an eye out for called idea pins, which is essentially stories for Pinterest, but kind of TikToks at the same time. Finding it quite interesting because it's getting massive views compared to normal stuff. So if you're trying to grow your own brand or you're trying to grow your brand in itself, you're going to want to upload your TikToks, Reels, anything like that to idea pins to then fully take advantage of that organic reach. And you'll find you'll be heavily rewarded for it. So stay on top of search terms, make it look good, and actually use video, because vertical video will absolutely murder on Pinterest. So yeah, very, very interesting. And YouTube. YouTube is definitely a search platform, the second biggest search platform in the world. And people don't give it credit for it. Everyone kind of still sees it as a social media network, depending on who you are. If you use it regularly, you'll understand the algorithm is very similar to TikTok. That's why that's why people go viral on there, to be honest. So it's very much how can you optimize a video for search. If you're doing like store tours, if you're talking about different initiatives, it would be like if we were doing the podcast, for instance, for the So-So Show, we're going to need to change that into something that's a searchable term. So using tools like Answer the Public or Uber Suggest to figure out what that keyword term is to bring in more traffic to actually let people see that video. Because if you just name it So-So Show episode 2, unless someone knows that brand, it's never going to get seen. So that's why personal brand comes into it. I know Zoe's got a great personal brand, so you're fine on that one. So it's all about how you get people to that video, what the importance of that video is. And just like with TikTok, it's that hook at the start that gets people watching through the entire time. And it shares the exact same algorithm as TikTok does. So watch time, engagement, and then, just the general search terms of the video, really. But main part of it is just staying in a niche. So essentially stay in your lane when it comes to YouTube, and then you can expand out later once you have a following. So anyone who's trying to grow a YouTube channel or has been over the pandemic may know this, but you can never quite attribute which videos are going to go viral and what aren't. So it always tends to be that first 1 to 3 minutes of content that will define how well that video does. So keep that in mind if you're trying to grow video content, or you have to make video content for stores. But with all of these, it's all going to be native video. You're going to have to be making video here, there, everywhere, and figuring out how you can make it entertaining, how you can make it valuable to people. Can you actually teach about certain niche? So is this fashion inspiration? Is it what colours work where? Is it how do I find this special price? How do I get discounts and retailers? It's all very, very interesting how it all works, but think like a creator, not a brand at all times, and you'll get rewarded heavily for it. And if you're interested in learning a bit more, some CV stuff is there. I've binged through all of these. HubSpot do a great free course. Google Digital Fundamentals is also amazing. And Facebook Blueprint, although that is very long and I haven't finished it yet. So yes, if you want to get interested in all that stuff, some free ones there. But as Kobe used to say, the most important thing to try and do is inspire people so that they can be the best and greatest at whatever they do every day. So that's me.